Hello, everyone. Everyone hear me okay? Give me a thumbs up. Everybody's happy, smiling faces. It's Wednesday. Gotta be happy. It's Wednesday, halfway through the week. All right. Without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. Just real quick, my name is Zach Einerson. I'm the client engagement lead here at SafeAbroad, and we'll go ahead and get started. We've got a couple things to go over for the month of October and then the month ahead as well. Um, I'll have the team introduce themselves as they go and present their respective slides, but it's kind of the agenda for today. Talk about recent incidents and the month ahead, and then reports as well. So we'll get us started with recent incidents in Manchester.
Hello, my name is Sydney Pepper. I'm an intelligence analyst here at SafeAbroad, and I'll be briefing you about a terrorist attack that happened in Manchester, the UK on October 2nd. Right around Heaton Park, the Hebrew congregation Synagogue was rammed through with a car. Two deaths and four were injured. It was a British citizen, drove the vehicle out into a crowd outside the synagogue. He left the car and began stabbing people. Police later classified this as an act of terrorism, stating that he may have been influenced by extreme Islamist ideology. He was killed by police on the scene. This knife attack marks the almost 16,000th related offense this year. So we advise our travelers to exercise caution in the area and monitor trusted media for updates. There was another knife attack this week, Sunday, in Cambridge, where 11 passengers of a train were hospitalized after a man began stabbing people with a kitchen knife on the train 8 minutes away from Huntingdon Station. Knife attacks of this nature are common and have been steadily rising in the 2024-25 reporting year. Attacks of this nature we are seeing are adding fuel to anti-immigration sentiments due to their high volume of publicity. As Riley will mention later on in the briefing, there's an ongoing culture clash presented a concerning trend as protests and violence continue to escalate in Greater Europe. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Riley Kuchbaugh. I'm an intelligence analyst here at SafeAbroad, and today I'm going to be briefing you about what's been going on in Europe over the past month. So throughout October, anti-immigration and nationalist protests have continued. We saw them in Amsterdam, Dublin, the United Kingdom again, and even Australia saw them. And the protests are in response to Europe's immigration policy. A little bit of context here. The bulk of migrants going to Europe are from MENA countries, so Middle Eastern and North African countries, predominantly Islamic countries. And when you have these people going into Europe, it's creating, as Sydney mentioned, a culture clash, a clash between the cultures. And these protests, they're becoming increasingly larger, more prevalent, and violent. And they're also arising spontaneously, which is a point I'm going to expand upon now. It's very important. So this picture here, that is in Dublin. Protesters gathered outside of an asylum hotel in Dublin because one of the residents, an asylum seeker, he sexually assaulted a 10-year-old girl. And so they came out. This was violent. As you can see, they burnt down a police car. They engaged police with rocks, bottles, and fireworks. There were multiple arrests, and police officers were injured as well. Multiple police officers were injured. And so the concern here is that these protests are kind of popping up and can take people like our travelers by surprise. These movements are increasingly being joined by centrists as well. I did a lot of research on the people attending these nationalist and anti-immigrant protests, and I noticed two trends. I watched a lot of interviews of people, and the first trend was that most people there were saying, I'm not really political, I'm not far right, I'm not a hateful person. And the second trend was people saying, and specifically I'm talking about the United Kingdom rally from last month, a lot of people said that that was their first time coming out for a rally or anything remotely political, and that they don't get out often. And so these two things, they signaled to me that these protests, they are getting larger, they're growing, and they're activating people who normally would not be activated to go out on the streets in protest, but now they are getting activated. So for our travelers, they were and they still are advised to avoid all of these protests and demonstrations. They should leave an area immediately at the first sign of unrest.
All right, thank you, Riley. Off to Lima.
Good afternoon. I'm Julia Hammerschlag, and I'm an intelligence analyst at SafeAbroad, and today I will be briefing you about Peru. On October 22nd, Peru's interim president, Jose Harry, declared a 30-day state of emergency in Lima and Callao in response to having a violent crime and ongoing anti-government protest. The state of emergency allows the government to deploy the army to patrol the streets, restrict the right of Peruvians to freedom of assembly, and restrict visiting hours in prisons. Despite the state of emergency, people continue to protest, like the Generation Z collective, who demand the resignation of the new interim president. By going against the state of emergency laws, the police and military have responded to disperse the crowds. There have been no reports of violent police and protest clashes since the state of emergency, but travelers should be aware of potential violence. Safe abroad travelers are advised to avoid demonstrations and monitor local media for protest updates and security alerts. Travelers are advised to follow all state of emergency directives, exercise caution, and maintain situational awareness to reduce their chances of becoming victims of crime. Thank you.
All right, thank you. To the Dominican Republic.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Gennaro Labanca, and I'm an intelligence analyst here at SafeAbroad. I will be briefing you on the disaster that took place in the Dominican Republic. So on October 23rd, what was Tropical Storm Melissa at the time, which subsequently turned into Category 5 Hurricane Melissa just a few days after, caused severe flooding and significant water and power outages across the entirety of the country. The country's Emergency Operations Center reported that the storm impacted 183 residential properties, displaced over 900 total people, forced around 60 people into shelters, isolated 19 communities, damaged a significant amount of infrastructure, sparked evacuations, and ultimately left over 1 million people without access to drinking water. Specifically, the storm, it took 53 aqueducts entirely out of service and affected the water turbidity of additional major water systems. And what that is, it's essentially the clarity of the water, how foggy it is, what sediment's gotten into it and whatnot. So these aqueducts supply drinking water to more than 610,000 people, and the Isamana and Dewey water systems typically supply water to around 405,000 residents in Santo Domingo Este, Pedro Brand, Los Alcarrizos, and parts of the National District. About 10 total inches of rainwater accumulated throughout the day in the capital, Santo Domingo, leading to major flooding in over 30 neighborhoods in the greater Santo Domingo area. And if you take a look at the photo on the right, which was taken on October 24th, which was one day after the storm's presence, you can kind of get an idea of just how severe the conditions were in relation to the people and the vehicles. So the Ministry of Public Works deployed emergency crews to clear immense amounts of debris and reopen blocked roadways, while cleanup operations continued in Barahona, Pedernales, San Juan, and Monte Plata for several days following the storm's passage. Studies have shown that natural disasters are generally continuing to increase in frequency and intensity as the years go on, and therefore it is crucial to react to them properly. With that said, safe abroad travelers were advised to limit non-essential travel until intense weather conditions came to an end, and to exercise caution if they were going to be traveling through affected areas, as landslides were possible. Travelers were also encouraged to frequently monitor local news and media sources for real-time updates and directives. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much. And over to Vietnam.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nolan Perrin. I'm the operations manager here at SafeAbroad. So over the course of the later end of this last month, we saw severe flooding in the central provinces of Vietnam. This had resulted from a series of heavy storms and a few typhoons that passed through the area. These storms caused the Perfume River to raise by 15 feet and the Howe River by over 6 feet, further exasperating hydroelectric dams and how much water they could hold. So they were forced to release further water, which only made the flooding worse in the area. Travelers should also note that the train between Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City, two major cities in the country, was shut down, as well as many of the main roads in the area. Power outages continue to affect households. An estimated 95,000 are still being impacted by power outages today. And travelers should also note that Typhoon K-Megi is expected to hit central Vietnam this Thursday.
All right, thanks. Thank you, Nolan. And to Jamaica.
All right, yeah. So hello, it's Gennaro again, and I will be presenting this slide on behalf of one of my fellow Intel analysts, Riley Baker, who is unable to be here today. So what initially started as a tropical storm evolved and strengthened into Category 5 Hurricane Melissa and made landfall in Jamaica between October 26th and October 28th. Melissa brought extreme winds reaching up to 185 miles per hour and generated a storm surge of up to 13 feet. It also brought intense rainfall, flash flooding, and widespread landslides across the country. Prior to Melissa's arrival, experts were saying that this storm may be catastrophic to Jamaica and even leave it completely unrecognizable. With that said, after Melissa's passage, there were reports of mass infrastructure disruptions, including power outages, blocked roads, and loss of communication networks. More than 500,000 people are still currently without power, and every region of the country is facing significant travel disruptions. Ultimately, SafeAbroad travelers were advised to secure shelter, stock essential supplies, and avoid low-lying and coastal areas. Travelers were also warned of the potential of short notice evacuation orders and the severe mobility limitations that were expected to be experienced. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Over to Istanbul.
Good afternoon. My name is Miles Howard, and I'm a Intel analyst here at SafeAbroad. Today, I'll be briefing you on the political tensions brewing in Istanbul. As of October 27th, there were new political espionage charges filed against the current, the suspended mayor, Ikram Imamoglu, heightening political tensions in the country. He's been detained since March on separate corruption and terrorism probes, resulting in recurring rallies outside of the Istanbul courthouse, despite the local protest bans. This comes at a time where the incumbent authority is currently cracking down on dissent. They have been arresting many opposition leaders, campaign leaders, the overall campaign director, journalists, as well as the chief executive or chief editor of Tele One, which is a critical news outlet, which they recently placed under government control. This is very crucial to the political scape in that country, due to the fact that Imamoglu is really supposed to be the 2028 the 2028 presidential candidate, currently going against the current power. However, with these new cases, it's seeming very unlikely that he'll be able to do so. As a result, SafeAbroad travelers were advised to exercise caution near any demonstrations and monitor trusted media for updates. Thank you.
Thanks, Miles. Moving on to the month ahead and starting off in the United Kingdom.
Hello. Remembrance Day will take place on November 9th throughout the United Kingdom. Celebrations honor the fallen UK and Commonwealth soldiers of the First World War. These celebrations often include services, followed by marches, parades, and 2 minutes of silence that starts at 11 in the morning. These events are usually well attended and take place at significant monuments and city centers throughout the UK. And of course, London, being one of the biggest cities in the UK, will have a very large celebration. with road closures and other disruptions expected, where participants will gather at the Cenotaph in Whitehall. So travelers are advised to follow the official directives, remain respectful of the solemn event, and also build in extra time for travel around city centers.
All right, to Belém, Brazil.
Hi everyone, my name is Douglas. I'm an intelligence analyst intern here at SafeAbroad. Today I'm going to be briefing you on the upcoming COP30 climate conference in Brazil. So the annual conference will bring unique security challenges and use Brazil's model for major international events. And some background on the COP30 climate conference. So the COP is an annual meeting where world leaders, scientists, and non-governmental organizations and civil society leaders gather to discuss actions to tackle climate change. And this year's upcoming 30th United Nations Conference of the Parties, or COP30, will take place in Belém. Around 50,000 people and authorities from 196 countries are expected to attend. So one of the challenges of securing Belém is its geography and natural features. So rivers and streams across the city, and much of the urban activity that takes place in the city is through waterborne transportation. Fortunately, though, Brazil has lots of experience in planning and securing major international events. Past examples include the 2014 World Cup, the 2016 Olympic Games, the 2024 G20 Brazil Summit, and the BRICS Brazil Summit. So some security measures in place to ensure the safety of the event and venue include bomb sweeps, strict access control, and evacuation plans. Countries or officials from countries more exposed to protests may request additional reinforcements as well. So on top of all that, about 8,000 public security, intelligence, and national defense agents will be deployed during the event in a joint operation involving federal, state, and municipal agencies. So those defense agents include members of the Brazilian Amazonian Military Command, the Brazilian Navy, the Brazilian Military Police. In addition, the multi-purpose aircraft carrier Atlântico, the largest warship in Latin America, is now docked in Belém with 1,042 military personnel, armored vehicles, helicopters, weapons, and nuclear, biological, chemical, and radiological defense equipment on board. The blue zone part of the conference venue will be under direct UN control. As of now, though, there have been no credible threats reported in the area. So safe abroad travelers are advised to exercise caution if attending the event or travel within the vicinity of it. And as always, follow all official directives and expect travel delays and disruptions. Thank you.
Thank you. And back to Europe.
Good afternoon. My name is Emily Schaefer. I'm an intelligence analyst here at SafeAbroad, and I will be briefing on Christmas markets in Europe. So during mid to late November, Christmas markets will open across Europe and stay open till the end of December. Within November, the exact opening date varies from market to market. Some of the more famous and larger ones are scattered throughout Germany, France, Belgium, Austria, Switzerland, Hungary, Finland, Norway, and Sweden. And these markets are especially attractive destinations for travelers. Further, Christmas markets offer an ideal target for terrorism due to the high number of people concentrated within confined open areas, as well as the symbolic nature of the markets. These markets are primarily a Christian and culturally Western tradition, especially in the Western part of Europe. Thus, Islamic fundamentalists would likely view them as prime events to target and disrupt. Past attacks have included in Berlin, Germany on December 19, 2016, when a truck was deliberately driven into a Christmas market, which killed 12 people and injured more than 70. The perpetrator of the attack was a Tunisian national who was inspired by propaganda from the Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant. Another attack occurred in Strasbourg, France on December 11, 2018, when a gunman opened fire at a Christmas market, which killed 5 people and injured 11. This attack was claimed by the Islamic State. Other planned attacks in recent years have been foiled by police. In response to past attacks, security measures to include additional police presence, physical barriers, entry controls, and surveillance have been implemented. Safe abroad travelers are advised to exercise caution and be cognizant of their surroundings when visiting these Christmas markets. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Emily. And over down to South Africa.
Hello. Yes, the G20 Leaders Summit will take place in Johannesburg, South Africa. The date is right there, the 22nd to the 23rd. This is where representatives of the world's top 20 economies will gather the top representatives, that is, that make up 85% of the world's GDP. Being such, similar to the COP30 in Belém that was earlier discussed, there will be increased security and traffic disruptions around this area. Travelers can expect temporary road closures, lane restrictions, and rolling traffic stops, as well as heightened security presences around the immediate event centers around the city, as well as transportation hubs, including local airports there. Some examples of the top leaders going would be Canada's Mark Carney, India's Narendra Modi. It's a very high profile event prompting very high security. Safe abroad travelers are advised to follow the official directives as well as to allow extra time for travel due to these disruptions.
And thank you, Nolan. And that wraps it up for this week. Open it up to any questions. I will stay on. If anyone has any questions, you're welcome to put in the chat or go ahead and unmute yourself. Otherwise, have a very great rest of your Wednesday and rest of your week. And we look forward to seeing you soon.